when you just walk in there and you have this, it's Aaron Rodgers against the Bears.
Oh no, I'm okay. Again, you're talking about two other things. I'm agreeing with you, Josh. I just don't think it comes from a place of anger. They've never done anything to him.
Anger, arrogance, whatever you want to call it.
Is like a one guy on the team. Jalen Ramsey saying something about him 7 years ago.
You don't think he takes that personally?
This is the Buffalo Plus Podcast, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.
All right, welcome back to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel, presented by Connors and Ferris. Mike Catalana, Dan Fates, I am Jenna Cottrell. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel as we are talking about this Bills-Dolphins matchup for the AFC East title, all coming down to Sunday, Week 18. Mike, so much at stake for this Bills team. And what do you think about this game? What does this game mean for the team, just in terms of obviously what's at stake, but also where this team is at too?
They've expected this. They're all subscribers to the Buffalo Plus YouTube channel.
Obviously.
We've been talking about it.
McDermott does have the let James cook shirt, I believe.
Because that's how he's getting that going. And we've been telling people this was going to happen. And I said on our video the other day that it was that Miami loss to the Titans, to me, that changed everything. Because that opened up the door for what we're going to see on Sunday.
Yeah.
Obviously, if that doesn't happen, the Bills would have had no shot to be playing for the division. They'd just be down there to survive for the playoffs. But instead, they're playing for the division, which I think is awesome. And I think stop the nonsense I've heard from people that if both teams make the playoffs, that this game wouldn't mean as much, or you start resting people. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's massive.
It's maybe 6 or 7 for the Bills and 2 and 5 for the Dolphins.
Yeah.
The
Massive
2 seed
difference.
is such a huge advantage for whichever team wins. So I'm loving it. I think this is great.
Yeah, I think this is what you said we expected, especially once we went through the Eagles game and the Cowboys game. Eagles, Chiefs, Cowboys. And we said, like, this is where it could come down to. And I thought Jenna made a good point when we talked about it yesterday at practice, when we mentioned you kind of made the comparison that it's the tortoise and the hare. Like the Dolphins come out, blazing fast, all these things. The Bills have to deal with all these injuries. They hit their lull in the middle of the season. And now it's the exact other way around, where now all of a sudden the Dolphins are the ones dealing ravaged with injuries.
So many.
You kind of got to wonder where their head's at, because yes, the division, all of those things, 100% right. But they're already in. And I think that does play a factor into this game. Something. No?
I feel like they are so injured that maybe if things start going awry, they might lean back on the fact that, hey guys, we're already in. And maybe they would take their foot off the gas a little bit. But at the same point, the division and what that means in terms of the playoffs and the home field and all that stuff.
But it's not a bye.
It's absolutely not.
How much can you push some of these guys, knowing that no matter what, you're playing next week?
Okay, so I think there's 3 different ways you look at a player. You look at a player like the Ravens are looking at Lamar. Clinched everything.
Yep.
He's just not playing.
Correct.
Because they don't want him to get anything.
Pro Bowler Tyler Huntley.
That's right.
2, there's a player who's dealing with something. Now, that may be Jalen Waddle.
Yep.
Because you're saying he's dealing with something. Could they play? And you make the decision to say, they could. If this was win or out, maybe then you make that decision. Again, you're not going to put a player at risk. We're talking about, is he 100%? All those things that go with it. And then the third thing is, I mean, if the guy is hurt, like he's not playing in the game. Now, I guess we'll see about Waddle.
Yeah.
Waddle seems to be the one that's like, it would be almost a surprise if he's ready to go.
My question to you is coming off, it's a different situation, but coming off the Bradley Chubb ACL tear where, he was in the game with 3 minutes left and they're getting blown out. Do you think, because of the injuries that are already affecting this team, where this team is at, do you think they do err, though, on the side of caution in terms of maybe we do let some of these guys sit the extra week, considering, like Dan talked about, they know they have another week ahead?
I think if you have the right plan in place and the way you handle injuries, and maybe the Dolphins aren't the best team to talk about with this, but in terms of what had happened in the past, while I know the concussion thing is different, I think you just follow your pattern. And if the trainers say Jalen Waddle can go and he's ready to go, you play him in the game.
Agreed.
I'm just saying cannot kid ourselves, especially a team like the Dolphins. You're talking about the difference between when you drop down to the lower part of the bracket.
You go on the road.
You not only go on the road in the first game, there's a very real possibility that your second game is at the Ravens. And, you want to avoid the Ravens as long as you can, right? In terms of if you got to go there. And if you're the 2 seed, say the Buffalo Bills win and they're the 2 seed, home, potentially home. It's a big, big, big difference.
I'm not even talking about the sense of I'm looking at this, if this was still a week 13 game, where are these guys at health-wise? Are you pushing them beyond that? Because they had guys, it was a massive game for them last week. Last week was for a bye. Last week was everything.
Seed.
Yeah.
Last week was for the division, and they didn't do it. And now all of a sudden, did you put on the pedal against Baltimore? And then all of a sudden, guess what? Baltimore bullied you. And now do you say, hey, we treat this like a mini bye, like a mini rest?
Here's why. When I watched the Lions play, and
you
went
are the
for
biggest
2,
Lions fan.
Loved it.
All of a sudden, you are
loved it because
pro Dan Campbell.
You are
He's biting kneecaps.
Yeah,
because this guy is proven to be a leader of a terrible franchise, and he's trying to drag them out of the abyss that they've been in. And he's telling that whole team, we're here to win, right? And I think it's a mindset. I think if you're the Dolphins, say you do this, right? And you sit there and you go, we got some guys hurt. We take our foot off the. So now you were playing for the 1 seed. Now you're playing for the division. You've lost both of them. And now you're on the road. Guys still aren't 100% anyhow. And now you're on the road watching the Bills sit there at number 2. And maybe if you get the Bills again, you got to go to Buffalo. I think I think it would be a mistake because this Miami franchise has had a lot of failure.
Correct.
A lot of failure. And I think it's a mindset they have. I'm not talking about being reckless. I'm just talking about saying,
correct. And I'm
they
talking
gotta
about
win this game.
Correct. And I'm talking about being a little overly cautious.
I think it's dependent on the game. If they get in and the Bills start to bully them, then I think you see them kind of recede. I'm not saying it's either good or bad. I'm saying I could see that dictating what they do.
Because I think that is what poorly run teams do. And I'll even say this, and Chris Long was talking about it on his podcast, and he was great about it. And I wish I had the numbers. I know the numbers the other way. Teams that rest their quarterbacks in the final week of the season, 17 or 18, and then have a bye, they're 9-30 the following week straight up.
Wow.
But everybody says rest the quarterback. That's a long rest.
It's the dangerous one for Baltimore because they did it before and then they lost.
Mm-hmm.
And Lamar hasn't been good. So again, there's other things we can talk about with playoff scenarios, things like that. I'm just saying this is a Miami team that, for as much as I love Mike McDaniel, and I really do, and all of his coaching, all these things like that, he has faltered late in seasons.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a dangerous game to play. And I'm not saying you're saying that's exactly what they're due, but to go into a game and be like, hey guys, we're going to see how this goes. I think you have to say as a coaching staff saying we're resting guys that are banged up this week. We're treating this week as our bye week. We're holding out Waddle. We're holding out Mostert. We're going to get those guys ready. Because, Mike, to your point, you're saying you got to win the division. You got to get all these things. Isn't it also a little bit, don't you as a coach want to say, we'll go on the road and beat anybody? Who cares? We'll take on anybody. You want to play us on the road? We'll beat you at your place.
You can say that, but you can also think, holy shit, we need the division.
I understand that.
I guess it's maybe more like I'm not announcing to the team this is a bye week. I'm making a decision. And if it gets to that moment, which could be Sunday night, 90 minutes before the game, they take a look at Waddle before the game. I'm just picking him as the easy guy to say because he's got an injury.
Yeah.
And I
he's
go,
an
no.
important impact
and
player.
I say, no, I don't think I'm telling everybody all week. I don't want the mindset that this game is a mini bye. I'm not telling my team that. They need to win this game.
I'm not saying you're telling them that. I'm saying you're being overly cautious by saying, hey, we're going to hold out Mostert. We held him out last week. You hold him out another week.
They held him out because he wasn't ready to play.
So again,
I'm not talking about playing guys that aren't ready to play.
Okay, that's all I'm saying.
By the way, Chubb's out.
They're banged up. Howard's out.
Torn ACL.
Yeah, Howard's out.
By the way, I was thinking about that for them. Torn ACL, and not to make the oil change joke here, but torn ACL late December.
Yeah.
Not great, Bob.
No. For him, that's really rough.
That's huge. And yeah. I think we will see in this game, if things go very, very wrong for the Dolphins and Josh Allen plays like Josh Allen, I could see them sitting guys. I'm not saying it's the right coaching move to do, but I think they also might. I think also too, with the fact that where they were at, what happened last week with Bradley Chubb, that could be in Mike McDaniel's mind.
Yeah, but the Chubb thing was the game had already been decided.
Yes, but I'm saying
you're saying so. Oh, if they
I'm
get
saying
in that
because
spot,
they've already had so many injuries,
Oh.
and he's fresh off taking so much heat for that.
Oh, if the Bills are up 17 with 3 minutes to go in the game, this time you might say get guys off the field.
What I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm saying 3 minutes to go in the third quarter.
Yeah, I'm not coaching that way.
Then
you go down and go down. Then you play that first playoff game and it's over.
It's the playoffs.
Have you guys watched any?
You act like road playoff teams can't win a game.
I'm not saying they can't win a game. This team hasn't done it.
Yeah.
And you will have given
injuries
up the
or not.
division.
Let me also say this. Injuries or not, this is a banged up team that is limping to the finish line.
I guess I'm not arguing with you. You would sit guys that can't play, but I'm not being overly cautious. If the dude can play, he's on the field and we're trying to win this game and take the division.
Okay.
That's the way I'm playing it.
I was not expecting this conversation.
Me and Dan Campbell are together on this. Seriously, I love the way he coaches. I love it.
Have you guys watched Hard Knocks at all?
I watched a little bit of it early.
A little bit.
Yeah.
I'm halfway through the episode of this past week, and knowing what happens and how bad it goes for the Dolphins is a bit, hindsight 2020 type of thing, but it's a bit cringy what McDaniel says.
What if you rest a couple of guys and the Bills smoke them in this game? So you're coming off giving up 56, was it?
Mm-hmm.
They lost by 37.
And then you get beat again. Let's go, team. We're ready to go.
We didn't have our guys. Let them play when we get our guys.
Their guys. We got guys out. Everybody's got guys out. I'm playing them. Come on, McDaniel. Play your guys head to head with the Bills.
We'll see.
I'm saying this, but I'm not putting a player out there that isn't ready to play.
Of course.
I think it's a pretty easy
I'm not
decision.
saying that.
No, I'm saying
I'm not saying a guy's healthy. I'm going, nah, I'm all
Dan,
good.
here's the difference. Super Bowl ready or last game of the regular season ready? Meaning, like, would Jalen Waddle be playing if this was the Super Bowl? Because there is no other game beyond that, or to get to the Super Bowl, maybe. I'm not saying. I think that's the only time where you make a decision and the player does, where it's like, in normal circumstances, he'd be sitting out, but he's going to play. If he's in that spot this week, he doesn't play. I'm with you on that. I think you're missing what I'm saying is I think you're saying go into it like not play. I don't know what circumstances he's in. And we may not know until Sunday.
And none of us know. Like, this is people are probably going, what? These guys are at the training.
I think you're making it more confusing than it is.
I don't think I am.
I think I said you follow the lead of your trainers. You don't make a decision one way or the other, bigger or smaller. If he's ready to play, he plays. If he's not, he sits. The only time that might be a little different in this case would be if that's the last game of the season and he's going to go. So that's what I'm saying to you is, but I thought you were saying more like, we're banged up, sit everybody, and then we'll just take our chances next week on the road. I don't think they're thinking like, and by the way, they still absolutely believe without Jalen Waddle or whoever's not playing, and Howard's not going to play, right? Likely. Right. Xavier Howard. They still have Tyreek Hill, and they still have Ramsey, and they still have Tua. Like, they got some guys that can play. Right. So they're going there to win. I think I was just thinking you were talking more about like,
I'm erring on the side of caution. If a guy's 80%, I would sit him so he's 100% for the playoffs.
Okay.
They're already in.
The division is a lot, though.
Expired.
Expired.
It's division and 2.
The 2, yes. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about the Bills. Dan, how do you think this Bills team can best attack the Dolphins?
By Josh Allen. And listen, this was one of the things we were talking about it yesterday. I'm not overly concerned about the offense. I really don't have any, like they've been quiet the last 2 weeks. They've been down points early. I think, and we joked around about it, Jenna, we're not going to get into the trap game, emotional letdown spots, anything like that. I think the Bills have been looking ahead at this game for quite some time. And
playing
I'm not
vanilla.
Playing vanilla, just, hey, guess what? I know the other team gets paid to do it too. And I know you get fired up for every single game. it's a little different to get fired up against the Chargers and the Patriots as compared to getting fired up for knowing, like we said, after that Miami game, after the Tennessee game with Miami, that as long as you got out of there with wins, Week 18 was going to be for everything. I think the Bills get massively up for this game. I think it's a completely different offense than what we have seen the last 2 weeks. I think this is more of the offense that we will have seen against the Chiefs, against the Eagles, against the Cowboys.
My only thought process in terms of concern, though, is how Allen hasn't been as accurate, hasn't been, and he even talked about feeling a little bit funky. Do you think that is a switch, though, that can just be flipped?
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think?
I think if he hits Diggs on that deep ball, it quiets the Diggs talk and it quiets the Allen talk.
Diggs
and it was a great call.
Diggs
yards. Was flying down the field, had him beat. He just missed him.
Yep.
I mean, it happens. I mean, he hit Kincaid on that deep ball and he missed Josh.
Yeah.
Or missed Steph. It's a little concerning with how he and Diggs just can't connect on the deep ball. He's missed him. He missed him in London.
Yep.
Missed him short in London. Did he miss him in the Chiefs game?
I think I have.
But I mean,
Patriots.
Diggs looked great.
Yeah.
He's
early on the season in the Patriots game. He missed him too.
He's running down the field. He didn't hit him. He hits him in that. The numbers go up.
Yeah.
Diggs catches for over 100 yards. Gets the big touchdown, and everybody forget. Now again, I understand you're sitting there going, but he didn't. I agree with you. But that would have at least in everybody's mind flipped it a little bit. And I'm with you. I love the fact that they can run the ball. It is interesting. This whole idea of Diggs coming out and Sherfield coming in. I believe every play that Sherfield was in, the Bills ran the ball. Every play. That Diggs was out and Sherfield was in.
Okay.
Well, they threw a ball to Sherfield the one time, and I said, let's never throw the ball in Trent Sherfield's direction again.
Right.
It was also a waste of time that Jenna sat down with him at training camp. It was.
I didn't know. I thought he was touted to be this guy that.
It's a nice story.
He was a nice man.
Yeah.
And I was honestly.
I'm saying is I don't think they want Stephon Diggs blocking in some of those circumstances.
I agree. But they threw it to Sherfield the one time, and it was in for Diggs.
Well, a lot of the talk too is usage. 65% of the snaps. That's where I'm kind of confused. And that drive to start the third quarter, him not being on the field, that touchdown drive, that to me is a little perplexing.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I expect him and Allen to, pick up. I expect there to be that production that we've known and we've seen. I guess for me, I'm kind of confused as to why he wouldn't be on the field as much.
Yeah. A little interesting to start the half that way.
Yeah.
And to not have him out on the field. But I do think based on last year and this year, maybe for different reasons, maybe he does get worn down a little bit in the second half of the year. But nothing
that's part of it.
Wakes up a passing game for the Buffalo Bills like seeing the Miami Dolphins uniforms. And now that they're going to rest all their guys,
Josh Allen.
Do we want to do Allen versus Dolphin stats?
9-2 in his career.
And
10-2. Why don't we count the playoff?
Well, we count the playoff game because it was against Skylar Thompson.
Maybe we still count it. It's still against the Dolphins.
I know.
That's
10-2. And it took
10-2.
It took being on the surface of Mars. The sun, even better.
Sun.
or Charles Clay. They were the two reasons why
Charles Clay.
Right?
That's a good one. Yeah, that was his first game. He's averaging 279 passing yards in his 12 games against them, 34 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And for everybody that says, well, this is a Vic Fangio defense, that could be a difference. Well, he torched them back in week 4, and it is 2 career games because he also played them in Denver in the COVID year in 2020. In 2 games against Vic Fangio, 544 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception, 2 rushing touchdowns, 90 yards rushing.
I think Vic Fangio's a really good defensive coach.
I agree.
In Philly, they're panicking because they've fallen apart. Vic Fangio was a guy who was helping them at the end of last season. Thought was he was going to be their coordinator. And in Philly, the people have been like, we could have had Vic Fangio. And I'm thinking, you're saying this on a day where his defense gave up 56 points. When they've gone up against higher end offenses, look what the Bills did to them. Look what the Eagles did to him at that point. Look what the Ravens did to them. And I think he's a very good and has been a very good coach. But let's not pretend, again, like we use the thing. This is the 85 Bears defense.
100%.
And Josh just loves going against the Dolphins in general. Fangio, wherever he's coached, I think it's a good matchup for the Bills.
Josh has said all the right things this week about his history against the Dolphins and all of these things. And it's every game's different. You got to prepare for all these things. He said it last time they played him back in week 4, because I remember asking about it. That was when we talked about the Wilkins and his dynamic and things like
Christian
that.
Wilkins.
And then you have that game where Josh just goes off and does it again after the Dolphins scored 70 points against Denver. The Bills blow them out again. And for when you think that maybe the media's made more out of the Josh versus Dolphins narrative, Josh hits them with the face that the Dolphins social media did. And you were like, Josh knows everything. Like, that was such an elite level troll job that it was just phenomenal, where it was like, he hates the Dolphins.
I don't know if he hates them. I think he
loves owning a team.
Yes.
He owns them.
It doesn't come from anger. I got to stop the Dolphins. Like, he never beat them before. I think you would have had a little bit of that with the Patriots because early you didn't do it. He's always owned them.
But there's anger with Wilkins.
But that's...
and I think that plays into it too, because what was it? The top 100 NFL players. It came out how much smack talk Josh Allen does, and him, and the narrative, the back and forth with Christian Wilkins. And I think you see that, and I think that does light a fire.
100%.
1,000%. Josh wants to beat the Dolphins. He also wants to beat him in particular.
Yeah, but my point is he's always beaten them, and he's had great games against them. Like, they always talk about it's not really a rivalry unless the other team does something. I was more impressed by the Dolphins in the 2 games at the end of last season than almost any other time, because they fought in those games. My only thing is, yes, I get what you're saying, but he's won every time. It's not as a negative. I'm saying is he doesn't go in there. I don't think he goes in with, I'm going to beat Christian Wilkins, like whatever.
I disagree.
I think 1,000%.
I think there is something to it. It's, you know what it was? It was Brady against the Bills. It was Big Ben against the Browns. It was Joe Flacco against other teams. When you just walk in there and you have this, it's Aaron Rodgers against the Bears.
Oh no, I'm okay. Again, you're talking about 2 other things. I'm agreeing with you, Josh. I just don't think it comes from a place of anger. They've never done anything to him.
Arrogance, whatever you want to call it.
Is like a one guy on the team. Jalen Ramsey saying something about him 7 years ago.
You don't think he takes that personally?
How about
you
just
don't think so?
The fact that he matches up well with them and tortures them every game?
No, there's way more to it.
There's a lot more layers to it.
Then he needs to find a way to do this against some other teams. Conjure that up against the Jets. Conjure it up against somebody else. I just think he's better than them. I think it works every time he plays them. He's toyed with them at times.
That's the thing. I think you're taking out the human aspect of it. When someone tells you you're trash and you beat the out of them.
Yeah, he's done that multiple times.
And it still feels good, and it still motivates you.
I guess. Okay, so it's maybe you think it's from anger. I thought it was more from deserved arrogance.
Yes.
So I'm with you on that part.
Why can't it be both?
I guess.
Aaron Rodgers has won Super
Bowls.
More
Aaron Rodgers against Detroit and teams like that he knew whatever you do, I'm beating you.
Yeah. So that's exactly it.
Yeah.
He has that same kind of confidence.
Yeah, I guess it's. I guess I thought you too, and I don't know why it's good we're appropriately on different sides here.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just like there's teams that have beaten you and beaten you and beaten you, and you finally get them. And that comes from they've stopped me, they've beaten me, they've done this.
The Chiefs in the playoffs would be that.
Yes. That's when I see where it's more of like an anger. He's left the field decimated.
I think it's more personal.
Yeah,
which I actually think is better, because I think you channel that.
Who on
Michael
the Dolphins could talk shit to Josh?
Jalen Ramsey.
When he was a rookie, when he played for Jacksonville.
You don't think that still motivates someone?
Yes. I'm saying he said one thing 6 years. I'm not saying he doesn't use the Michael Jordan. Everything offends me. But I mean, seriously, like that, he's beaten the hell out of them.
Yeah. And it feels good every time.
You don't think what drives him is to make sure that they never get another win against him?
Yeah, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it drives him. I'm just saying it's not coming from a man. You guys, you guys have never lived this. You don't know it. And in terms of like when the Bills would always beat the Dolphins, right? Or always lose. Like Dan Marino, when they came into that championship game, and the Bills had beaten them in the division, beaten them in the playoffs, always came out on top. Not every game, and Marino's sitting there going, this is my time. I got him. And the Bills came into Miami and beat them again. That would have come from Marino from a place of, I haven't gotten these guys. I'm finally going to get them. That's to me, that's different than I always beat them.
Correct. There's two differences.
Yeah.
There's one of
arrogance, not anger.
There's one of it's my time.
I think it can be both, though.
I want to get
especially when you're Josh
Jordan
Allen.
against the Pistons when he finally got beat by them and it's like, hey, I got to get over the hump. This isn't Josh getting over the hump against Miami.
Right.
This is just walking in and being like, hey, I can't wait to stomp on you guys again.
Yeah.
But that's one thing. I think for Allen, he has the ability to have that anger and have that arrogance because of who he is, the way he has beaten them in the past, but also the very personal stuff that they have said about him and about his game.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I think that's fine. I think that's fine.
Got him.
Yeah.
We don't usually always agree, but we are very much. I'm gonna move on.
I think you guys, and you love that Josh does the little stuff from the memes and all that kind of stuff that he'll
love
do.
Memes, yes.
Yeah, and he'll do, and get his little shot in there. That's great. To me, that comes from a place of like I'm better than you. I just don't see that as anger as much. I think it's past that point.
I think those things can share a wall, though.
Maybe. Okay. I'll give you that. Maybe. He's just done it so many times. He's only lost to them twice. And once, like we said, he threw for 400 yards.
But have you ever had someone doubt you? And every time you
win?
No,
no one has ever doubted.
That's what I'm saying, though. If you had someone who says, like, you can't do this, and then you repeatedly do it,
is electric.
you feel good every time. Maybe, you know what I mean?
It's electric.
Yeah.
This is absurd. This is insane. This is not what I was expecting.
Yeah, I just think that this is, again, Josh doesn't get this fired up against a lot of teams. And
maybe he should.
But he always seems
maybe
to
he
against
needs
the Dolphins.
to do the Michael Jordan. That's what I'm saying. And find a way to get that.
To take everything personally?
Yes.
Even though he does take playing the Dolphins personally?
But Mike doesn't want him to take the Dolphins personally.
No.
But he wants him to take it personally against every other team.
You also have a way to shift the argument. Not saying
That
he
is
can't
true.
do that. I'm saying is if it's really that, and I'm with him on that. I guess I just have seen so much in this league of you can't beat the team or they beat you last year or it's a little more revenge. This part is like, if you're the Dolphins, like you got to disrupt this somehow. Because nothing has worked against Josh.
That is correct.
Nothing. Changing coordinators, Tua playing better, like whatever it is, nothing has worked against the guy. And Christian Wilkins, I guess, keep going to that. Well, whatever it is for Josh, if that's what it is, that's great. But it's going to take more from the Dolphins than, I guess it's going to take. I mean, obviously, they got to play a lot better and play a lot differently to beat them.
Specifically, Tua. If we want to switch gears
that was something.
A little bit here. Tua in his career, we'll do Tua stats: 1 in 5, 5 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 213 passing yards per game. But that's a little deceiving because in the 6 games they played, the first one he played in was week 17 in 2020, where they blew him out.
Bills blew them out.
And
he threw for a ton of yards in that game.
Do you want to guess how many?
It was like 500, wasn't it?
361.
Oh,
it was like a career high, but he threw 2 of his touchdowns in the fourth quarter
when
against
the game was
you
over.
And me.
Who was Williams, the running back, had a big game for the Bills. The guy everybody loved.
Antonio Williams.
Yes.
And that was also the Isaiah McKenzie game. I think he had the punt return for a touchdown, caught a touchdown, ran one in.
Oh, when I think of Isaiah McKenzie,
you think of the New England game.
I think of the Patriots. Yeah.
That's what I think of. Tua, again, you talk about what the offense needs to do. Obviously, I think we've just we hit on it. It's
Josh Allen be Josh Allen.
And look, I think what's been great about them showing they can run the ball and play more physically is
you have to.
It's not just like Josh is going out there, see what you can do to him.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have to wonder about that. Can the Bills run the ball on the Dolphins? I think they can.
Yeah, I think so.
Do they need to? Maybe not.
It's something you have to respect, which is why it is important to be effective in running the ball. In terms of the defense, though, we talked about this a little bit. I feel like where it was so tough because the last time these two teams played, Matt Milano was out there. Daquan Jones was out there in week 4. Trey White, that was when he did get injured.
Yeah, but I was thinking about that game. Remember how that started?
Touchdown,
it looked like
touchdown,
yeah,
right?
It was, and it was like, oh boy, like, is this going to be the no punt game? Yeah. Is this whatever? And then
the Bills.
Sean McDermott.
He did. Coached him up.
And that was this game right before when the Raiders marched down the field on the opening drive, and you were like, what are the Raiders going to do?
Yeah.
And they didn't get another, they didn't get in the across the 50 again.
Yeah.
That was back-to-back games where, again, McDermott, don't freak out when you see something happen where you're like, oh my gosh, the Bills are going to give up an opening drive touchdown. McDermott has been very good at making adjustments either at halftime or right after the first drive to get the defense back.
Especially in the stretch, the bend, don't break type of aspect. But that is one thing that bothers me on social media, like the overreaction. Like 60 minutes is a long time. I'm not saying you can't be upset if the Dolphins were to score all these things, but sometimes I feel like you got to like zoom out a little bit.
Yeah, and that first drive is different.
Scripted.
And teams, the good teams, adjust. They adjust.
Yep.
And not just at halftime. Everybody always thinks about halftime adjustments.
Yeah.
It's like halftime is quick. Like
Halftime is you get an orange slice.
Yeah,
and
you
it's
better
back
be
out
ready.
there.
Go to the bathroom.
Good job, kid.
Yeah. And Josh goes in and reads what Jalen Ramsey's saying about him.
You
No, I'm not. I'm not.
Hold on, no. You disqualify that.
I'm
but
not disqualifying.
I
it.
think you do, but I think for a lot of people, especially maybe younger people, that is something that absolutely fuels people.
I guess I come from a place of
Old man.
No, I think
Philly anger. It's always about who we hate. And
Not
you
who
hate
hates
them
us.
usually because
Of the
they've
colors.
beaten you.
Oh,
You
okay.
they've beaten
Well, the team
you.
colors.
Well, yes, but I'm saying is usually it's because they always
They're
beat
the-
them. They're
the
the ones that
Cowboys.
can't get by, right? It was
Like you cheer people when they get like carted off on stretchers.
never done
you
that.
throw batteries at people.
Breaking.
Oh.
It just is like we got to get by this team. Like it would be the thing to get past them. And that's fine. If hey, look, put it to you this way. I guess you're right in this. Whatever works for you. I just feel like I love when Josh Allen is playing that way because usually that means he's having success.
I agree.
And
I agree.
and we've seen him do it coming off a lack of success, and he still does it.
Yes.
Like he just
I agree in terms of he can flip that switch.
I think he can flip
get
the
the
switch.
passing game going. He can be that guy because we've seen it in many moments where
Yeah.
there might be a game he struggles or this last stretch where he hasn't looked fantastic. But at the same point, he is someone that I always am impressed by. When the lights are brightest, Josh Allen is usually leading the way.
You know what I think he hasn't gotten enough credit for was that game in the Heat
Oh my
that he
gosh.
played all
Unbelievable.
those snaps.
Unbelievable.
And I know he threw the bad ball there at the end and everything, but that was a survival game.
Yeah.
And he was on the field a ton.
Yeah.
And he threw for 400 yards. And
That was the game.
I've heard some of the players since talk about that game and talk about, I don't know how Josh was still doing it.
Yeah.
how he
I
was
just
still playing.
remember him getting, hosed down with a water bottle. It's like in between timeouts or while everybody else is cramping. And Josh is just like,
Yeah.
put me back out there. He was running for his life in that game. That was a game last year. Like we said, we always talked about it. The better team, I didn't think won either game.
Yeah.
I thought the
was
Bills
thinking
were-
of that.
I thought the
actually.
Bills were better in Miami. I thought the Dolphins were better in Buffalo. And then the playoff game was kind of a coin flip because it did kind of go back and forth
Thank
for a little
goodness it
bit.
started snowing. I feel
Yeah.
like that really benefited the Bills in that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Skylar Thompson.
I think, again, Bills can disrupt Tua. I think what they did really well early on in the season was, despite what some people will say, Tua is still a first read guy. He still wants to go to his first read a lot. And they were able to take that away. And once they took it's so funny. Leonard Floyd's a guy that can be a little bit more loose-lipped after the game. He might say something that maybe he shouldn't say after the game. And that was one of the ones where he was like, we knew that if we took away his first read, he'd be in trouble. And it was like, well, we had a good game plan. It's like, no, you pretty much said, like, be honest, like you could get to him. And that was a game I thought where the coverage dictated a lot of sacks.
You saw the Ravens do a lot of this. And I think Bernard is such a key because he can get the quick, deep drop and take away that part of the middle.
Mm-hmm.
Make that throw so much more difficult for Tua that if a linebacker has that ability to jump into the coverage, do it quickly, and disrupt that throw that Tua loves, a timing throw, makes a massive difference. You would think that the former linebacker would have been able to do that because of his physical size, but Bernard does it so well.
So well.
Yeah.
And can also come on the blitz. I mean, he can do every other part of the job too. But I think that's what makes him. You think of secondary coverage and defensive line, but I think Bernard is a huge part of that for them.
I also feel so much more confident in this defense as a whole. Like
Yeah.
earlier on in the season, if they were to have this matchup in, let's say, like week 11 or week 12, I'd be like, I don't know, like this Bills
100%.
defense is still kind of gelling all together, but where they're at, obviously the addition of Rasul Douglas, like they are primed to be able to take on a team like this.
One thing that worries me about the defense, they still struggle with some of those the screen passes. And we saw it happen last week.
Bills
we saw
are
it happen
screens, both on offense
and defense. We saw it happen in the Chargers game.
They seem surprised.
We saw it happen. Well, that's why they lost that New England game. They gave up that screen.
Yeah.
And I know, you can't stop everything, but Miami does have a lot of speed. And there would be ways I would, if I was them, I would be looking. I mean, obviously they're going to want to get the ball out of Tua's hands and get the ball moving, but that does make a big difference, I think. Depends on who plays. I don't know about HN if they said. I know he's been dealing with a lot.
Yeah, he didn't practice.
Or he was limited. He was another guy that was limited
yesterday.
So.
Let me see if there's any update on
the
Dolphins injury report.
But Mostert is big. I mean, that speed, we've seen that speed against the Bills before too. So if you're Miami, that's the strength you want to play to, is the speed. And Hill's, how about the drop Hill had last week?
Yeah.
Did the same thing in the Eagles game.
That's another thing.
Where he's just wide open.
Yeah. Another reason, it was funny when we were wondering what the line would be for this game. I think Beauvais and I kind of thought the Bills would be 1-point underdogs. They ended up being 2.5-point favorites in this spot.
Did it stay there? Is it still there?
It's 3. So the Bills are 3.5-point favorites. Something that you also have to factor in. It's something I like to usually bet after. Physical teams. The Dolphins just played a very physical game. They got beat up by Baltimore.
Bullied, yeah.
Like you're talking about a banged up team, end of the season, getting pounded by Baltimore on the road. I think that takes a collective toll. Now, New England also pretty physical team. And like for as much as we want to talk about how the offense wasn't able to get it done, especially in the red zone we talked about, New England's defense has played better of late.
Oh, absolutely.
And so like we can't just sit there and say like the Chargers game was more concerning, but that was a letdown spot, as we all know. Because the Chargers defense isn't very good, but they were playing hard on an interim head coach. Did you not hit the buttons? There you go.
I got it.
There you go. So yeah.
Congratulations.
Letdown spot. So stupid.
Oh, what side are you on now? You're on your own side. Now it's Dan and I together.
Yeah. I just think it's.
Yeah, we don't have to go into it.
Okay, yeah. Pro Bowl.
All right, let's start with this. The
Ed
Pro Bowl
Oliver
itself is an absurd thing. What surprises me is usually you see the injustice done to the non-stat players.
Yes.
Right? Because if there's numbers, players are like, ooh, this guy had 6 interceptions. He's a Pro Bowler. Right? It's just the way they vote. I mean, the players, everybody's like, well, why should the media vote and whatever it is? The players are terrible at this. They're terrible at it. They vote. Sometimes they vote for their friends.
That is correct.
It's just the way it goes. And a lot of times it's based on reputation, which is why I'm surprised. You're going to mention Ed, but I'm surprised Bernard did not get, because he's got numbers.
Well, yeah, but I feel like you have to campaign.
You have to campaign. You also, there is some history, guys who've been there before. It's tough to get them out. Yeah. Usually it's a corner. When you see a young corner gets in, he's got like 7, like the guy from the Cowboys, I'm sure made it, right? Yeah. I mean, because he's got the picks and he's got the numbers. But Ed Oliver, I mean, come on. I think he's legitimately could be all-pro this year.
I agree.
I completely
I tweeted
agree.
yesterday, I was like, Josh being second team, the first alternate of a Pro Bowler. Tua is
not Tua. Tua's not the problem I have. Mahomes should not be a Pro Bowl player.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, Mahomes is great.
So that's name.
Yeah.
Right, but I'm saying is if you're just going to do it on that, I mean, Tua's thrown for what, 40?
But that's exactly what it is on.
It is, but I'm saying is sometimes
Popularity
it is, but Josh is a very popular player too.
Right.
Like he's a name guy.
Also,
but I mean, seriously, Mahomes this year?
Also, we talk about pettiness. Josh will be motivated because Tua is a Pro Bowler. And
I'm sure there's a little bit of that, even though it's not personal against Tua.
100%.
Right. Love it. Give me that.
Yeah, see, I was trying to tell you guys, this is the kind of stuff that motivates him.
Yeah.
And I took that personally.
I was the one yesterday going, I will not be upset about Pro Bowl voting. I will not be upset about Pro Bowl voting. And I was like, how the hell is that on?
I threw my phone. I was like, this is so stupid.
So they've had it twice. Milano and Poyer.
Yes.
Both made all pro, but didn't make the Pro Bowl.
Correct.
The Pro Bowl it's a joke.
That is correct.
Yes, that is correct.
It's a joke. It's a joke in how they pick it. And for the Bills, it's nice to see Cook get I mean, he has good numbers, right?
He does.
But I was like, okay. And Dion,
yeah.
Dion's been there before. He's having his best season.
Correct.
He's having his best season. So not, I just look at, I mean, I saw that Dawson Knox was a 5th alternate.
It's a popularity contest.
Yeah.
Which is why Patrick Mahomes is going to win every time. He's going to be in that picture.
So the 3, wait a minute, it was
Tua, Mahomes, and Lamar.
Oh yeah, well it's definitely
Lamar is
and
like that's
honestly,
totally
in total, Tua's numbers, to me, Mahomes is more egregious than Tua. It just is
in terms of play. Yeah, I
for
would
this year.
definitely agree with that. But again, it's about that.
It's about motivating him.
Maybe it's a good thing for the Bills that he's an alternate.
Yeah,
a little motivation.
Yes.
Everything
Pro
okay?
Bowl.
Yeah, it's okay.
Okay. Anything else?
I don't know. Is
there
there
something else we were going to talk about?
Oh yeah.
What else can we disagree about?
Oh, I hope you don't disagree. I don't want the full shot. That's gross. Yeah, I got engaged. Woo!
Way to go, Zach.
Yeah, it happened.
You want us? We're disappointed.
We're
not about Zach. We love Zach.
We weren't asked.
We should have been asked for permission.
Correct.
You asked my parents. You should ask you guys too.
And then we didn't find out for 3 days.
Yeah.
Well, I wanted to tell you both in person. I didn't want to send a text message.
I would have been fine with it.
Yeah.
You know what actually overshadowed me getting engaged was Dan screaming about the refs and the Lions Cowboys.
That's also true.
By the way,
Jenna's like, hey, by the way.
All I will tell you about this is I'm offended by it and I'm going to hold on to it forever. Just like Josh and the Dolphins. Look at her flashing the rock. Look at her.
It's so nice.
Hard
and
Rock Stadium. She's gonna be walking
Yeah.
around like this.
It's nice, but it's weird because I dress like this all the time in sweatpants. So gotta step up.
Wow!
my game.
Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very excited.
Yeah.
Very, very. And thank you everyone for all the kind words.
And
Very
by the
nice.
way, in case you did not know, Jenna is going to be married at center field at the Super Bowl this year in Vegas.
Yes.
Yes.
And that'll be. And Elvis
I got
is
my
marrying
ring.
her.
Can the Bills get theirs?
Yeah.
Wow.
What does that mean?
No,
I
it's
thought it was
good.
a joke.
Man, here you are.
I know. I honestly, which is more unlikely. All right. Thank you both.
Coverage rest of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we actually a Buffalo Plus first. We
We
are all
have soundboard.
I know, but I don't know which one is which. I'm not good at it. There we go. Woo! For the first That's so loud. I'm gonna apologize for that. For the first time in Buffalo Plus history, all three of us
All three of us what?
are flying to a game.
Oh, that's right. We drove to Jersey.
Yeah. Yeah. So we'll all be there, which we are excited about.
Content Saturday.
Content on Sunday.
Content on Sunday.
Post
And
game
if you
reaction.
Anywhere in New York State, basically, Albany, Syracuse, Buffalo, Rochester will be on a live TV show, Buffalo Plus Live, Sunday morning at 10:30. Check your local listings.
Look
How
at
about
that.
that?
Yeah.
100. Sound like you're 100.
Check our local.
Well, I mean, it got to because
be sure
we'll
to
be
spay
on.
at New Year's.
So we'll be on a Fox station, I believe, an NBC station, and I think an ABC. No,
And
two
CBS.
Fox stations.
I believe CBS
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
We're all over the place.
My parents will be watching for sure.
Yes,
It will be.
that's good.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. For Mike and Dan, I'm Jenna. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. We always appreciate it.
BuffaloPlusStore.com.
BuffaloPlusStore.com.
Flash one more time. There we go.
Woo. Still not used to it. Thank you for joining us. We always appreciate it. We will see you next time here on the Buffalo Plus channel, presented by Connors and Ferris.
Buffalo Plus, your interactive look at the week in football, brought to you by Connors and Ferris.